Dolores Tarver. I am a licensed psychologist here in Georgia, and it is time for the TT Time with Dr. Tarver is a wellness-based podcast. It is not intended to be a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health provider. We made it to April. Can you believe it? It is April 1st. I know a lot of you are some pranksters, so you all be careful out there because folks may or may not be in a joking kind of mood. So make sure that you are thoughtful in your pranking this year if you're one of the pranksters in the family. I think in general, people are really stressed. We do like some things that bring us joy, and we do like to laugh. And so, if you are the type of person who is used to bringing joy into people through laughter, I definitely encourage you to take some time to do that today. We're going to transition into this series of dealing with the stress that's associated with the workplace. I think a lot of people are experiencing a variety of challenges, whether it is the threat of potential budget cuts, the threat of layoffs, being laid off, going from working remotely to having to return full time to the office or more days than not in the office. Some of you may be starting with a couple of days a week and then they're going to add additional days. Some of you are really trying to navigate how to address the commute now that you didn't have to deal with and trying to figure out if it's a realistic plausibility for you to be able to maintain employment at a place that you were not in a position to be able to commute to because when you took the position, it was remote. So I think in this series of navigating, if you will, workplace and layoff stress, we're going to be attending to a variety of different things that I'm hearing a lot of my clients talking about. And so we're going to target this month of April. April is an awareness month that I typically will address workplace anyway, because it is a month that is set aside to typically address um, workplace violence. And so we'll talk about some of the trends of increased stress and how it might affect people in the workplace, as things for us to be mindful of. I like to be preventative when I can. And so we're going to get into some of that. So definitely, if there are specific things that you want to hear about during this series, let me know. I feel like I have enough flexibility to be able to incorporate some things, some additional things, if there are some challenges you specifically want to focus on, as I'm realizing that a lot of people are being affected by the executive orders, whether that's to eliminate certain programmings, eliminate funding, eliminate positions, the return to work requirements, and just kind of the changes in your work environment. So let's get into it. Today, we are going to be specifically addressing navigating the return to work experience because I'm hearing a lot of people are struggling with that, just because, again, of so many different components of returning to work that I think we just did not have to think about when we were remotely working. We've also shifted from, I think, being an employee market to an employer market again, which means the employer has more of the power. And I think that's also shifted the dynamic because now you being a worker that's got a good work ethic, that's able to get your work done efficiently, like those things are no longer holding the same weight as they did before, because now it's we have these mandates, we have these production requests, we have to cut these budgets, and so there is a lot of stress that is coming for employees. You may already be in the good throes of it now, and so I'm seeing a lot of people report some health issues, and we'll get into that in the kind of second part of this. So let's talk about transitioning back to work. Like, I very much understand that most of you created an environment that centered around you being able to work remotely. And that may have been just in terms of not having to deal with the commute to work. It might have been just the ease of being able to manage your kids and their appointments and their needs at school because it allowed you to have that flex time to be able to get on your computer and work around their schedule as opposed to when you have to leave a physical office, go through traffic, pick up a child, take them to an appointment, take them back to school, and then try to return to work. It eats up a lot more time than when you're able to simply kind of log in and log out just for that time you'll need for those appointments and that transportation as opposed to adding a commute in there. I know that for a lot of people too, you are dealing with there is now a decreased workforce. And so you may have had your team cut down by half, some of you more than half, some of you 80, 90% of your team is no longer there, but the workload has not changed. And so you're trying to navigate dealing with those things going back into the office. I think also some people's work environments are not necessarily the most healthy and conducive work environments. Like, and when I say healthy, I mean in terms of cleanliness and how they've been maintained, having the types of things that you need. Because, right, we're sharing resources in a space. Whereas before you didn't have to worry about that. You might have had your own laptop or you might have had one that was sent to you. It was managed. IT could work with you remotely. Now you're back in the office and you may be sharing resources and realizing that the resources have not been maintained or we're having problems being able to get onboarded or logged in because we're back into a space. And so now there's more weight on the server. Now we're sharing these bathrooms. Now we're sharing these kitchens. And so these are things that you didn't have to navigate. Now people are having conversations around you whereas when you were at home, you were able to manage better the space because you could eliminate or decrease the amount of things that possibly could have been diverting your attention. Now you don't have control over that. Now you are, if you have allergies, if you know the smells of people's perfume and colognes affects you and you have allergic reactions, you're now dealing with that in places in spaces where you didn't have to deal with that before when you work from home. You may also be very sensitive to noises, and so now you're hearing, particularly those of you that are working in the open spaces that are more cubicle, right? Like I can't control for this person being on the phone, and I'm hearing them in their conversations. We're in very close proximity to each other. I'm hearing every time they breathe. I'm hearing when they click their stapler. And those are things that I didn't have to deal with before. So some of you may realize that you're a little bit more irritated because you just feel like you're overstimulated now in ways that you weren't at home because you weren't having to deal with these other things. And a lot of you work from home and you're by yourself. So there's not even any competition in the background. Some of you may have pets and you may have adult children, but that's very different than being in an office full of people. Also, I think now we're having to be mindful going back to work about meal prep because before you were right home, you were at the kitchen, and so it might have been easier for you to get those meals in. It might have been easier for you to make sure you stayed hydrated. It might have been easier for you to, if you're on medication, making sure that you're taking your medication. Now that you're back in a space, that means you're getting up earlier. You might be missing that exercise now because now you have a commute time of an hour and a half that you didn't have before. And so, whereas you had time for meal prep and exercise, you don't have that time. And some of you also may be noticing a disruption in your sleep because you were able to sleep a little longer because all you had to do was literally roll out the bed and log on. And so now you're having to get dressed. You might have your grooming might take some time. And so there are some things that you're needing to get prepped before you go. I know some of you also have headaches that you may get when there's too much light or the sounds or the smells. And so you may be noticing also you're getting more headaches than you were because you're in an environment where now there's all of these other variables that you're trying to navigate and deal with. Also, we had the capacity to turn those cameras off and be in those meetings. Now you're in those meetings face to face. So you can't hide in the same way that you were able to. So when they said something that you just felt like was irrelevant, you can't uh, roll your eyes and stare at the screen like, oh my gosh, what are they talking about? Or be able to multitask. I think a lot of us got used to being able to be in meetings but still doing other things. And so you're noticing maybe your productivity time is going down because there are other things that are competing interests now. And also, you're realizing that if there are less people in the workplace and there are more work requirements, that it also may be that you're constantly getting interrupted with other requests. And so you're feeling like I'm not getting any of the things that I need to get done because there's constantly this other stuff coming in. And now people can come to your office, they can come to your cubicle, whatever your space is. And so now you have this person standing in front of you, whereas before it might have been an email and you might have been able to prioritize things better when it was an email. You could set your day and not be interrupted. You could put some things in place to decrease those distractions, put some things on mute, put them for last on the list so you could really attend to what you had on your agenda for that day and then add other stuff. And so you may be finding that that's not the case. I'm also realizing that people just have heightened sensitivity as well. Just you're just more, um, I think, like easily agitated, or you're finding yourself like tired more. Just things that you weren't necessarily experiencing before when you were working from home because maybe you had figured out a routine that worked for you. Again, you got that extra sleep, so you weren't tired. You didn't have that commute, so you aren't tired. Now all of those things have changed, and so you're realizing like your body is still adjusting, and in that adjusting, you just find yourself being a little bit more reactive than you typically would. Maybe you feel like your stress level gets heightened easier than it did, and you don't have the same capacity that you did before to be able to navigate things and to be able to let things go, to for them not even to rise to a level of being stressful for you. You also may now be dealing with people coming back into the environment who you hadn't dealt with before, and so you may also in your team has changed, and so you're recognizing like I don't work as well necessarily with these people as how I work with my previous team. And so those are also some just kind of conflictual interpersonal challenges that may be going on in your workspace. So I want to kind of talk about navigating getting back into the workplace. And then, as I said, I want to shift to some health things that I want you to be mindful of in the event that you may need to seek some professional care. So it's important for you to now reorganize your schedule, restructure how you were approaching things before may not be what's working now. And so it's important for you to really take an inventory of all the things that you're doing now that you didn't have to do before and how long. We get a little time blind, and so we don't realize how long some things take. So you may think it takes you 10 minutes to get dressed. Time yourself. See how long it actually takes for you to be able to get dressed, do whatever you need to do before you leave the house, whether that's you getting your breakfast or your meal prepping or whatever that is. Like actually time yourself for whatever that routine is so you truly know how long it takes. And then what you want to do is you want to do um, a, um, the things that are going to allow you to save time. So go ahead and get my mother, when we were growing up, used to have us plan our outfits for the week. So we'd iron everything for the week. She did not believe in you ironing every night or getting up in the morning and ironing. She's like, whatever you need to know what you're going to wear for the week to get it ready. And I encourage you all to do that as well, particularly when you didn't have to think before about getting dressed, doing hair and makeup, whatever it is your routine may be, so that you want to do that in times where you have more time to take your time with it instead of you being rushed to do it. So the more that you can do ahead of time, the more time you cut off that morning routine. Same with meal prepping. You can meal prep for some days at a time. And also, if you're the type of person that likes to cook for the week, you can freeze those things because we know we're not supposed to have them leftovers out for more than 3 days, everybody. So you can go ahead and meal prep for a few days at a time. You can get things that are more convenient for you to be able to eat. Maybe for those of you that like seafood, your tuna, when you get a can of tuna, that might be easier for you. And I know people say don't bring fish into the workplace, but you bring in the workplace what's going to best work for you and allow you to be able to get the nutrients you need and get through your day and not be because what's going to make you more fatigued and tired is if you're dehydrated, you don't have enough nutrients. You might also want to think about snacks that you can bring in. Nutritious snacks, because I know we can get in the habit of we'll have the chips, my favorite, and your candy, and then you can get into that habit of just kind of grazing and eating during the day. So be mindful of getting you some fruits, some veggies, some protein. Some of you may like yogurt. Um, you may be able to do, like I said, if you do your meal prep, you got your lunch box. If you don't like sharing the community refrigerator, and then you already have the things and you kind of parcel out what you're going to eat. And this is a part of the schedule too. So if you recognize that when you're more stressed, you eat more, um, pack your snacks so that you just have enough snacks to eat in the designated time that you've aligned for yourself, particularly until your body adjusts to being back in that space. It is important for you to really also be mindful of how you're thinking. Like if you're waking up every morning with dread, not wanting to go to work. Oh, I got to fight this traffic. I can't stand being over there. All these people talk all day. I can't get anything done. Right. So, however you're thinking is going to already affect your day. So, it's important for you if you have a long commute, take some time and listen to a podcast, an audio book, um, a nice sermon, something positive, that is inspirational while you're going in so you can already have your mindset in a different place. When you go into work already stressed, then you have the stress of work. Then again, we've talked about the stress hormone cortisol and how it affects us. So you already know that it has some negative impact on you. Now, if we create these positive neural pathways, we've talked about, walking through that grass and you wear the grass down until you get that path. So we're wanting to try to create some positive pathways. You can do your mindfulness, you can do your CBT, you can have your affirmations at work, you can have your mantras at work. That you're going to be able to get through this transition period. You're going to be able to adjust, and it's going to be a positive experience for you, right? That is very important for you to foresee a positive outcome because what we believe affects how we behave. It's important for you to find something to be thankful about, right? The gratitudes are really important in this season because there's so much negativity around. And I definitely encourage you to be mindful of how much news you're watching. The news, one, it's on a cycle, so you're hearing every 20, 30 minutes the same kind of negative loop. And then two, it creates the fear and the anxiety. It doesn't encourage you to be positive. If you want to know what the weather is, you can get a weather app that'll tell you what you need to be wearing in the funness that is this time of year where you can get all four seasons in one day. Um, but it's important for you to understand that whatever you take in is going to have an effect on you. So you want to be mindful of what you're bringing in. And in order for you to have gratitude, in order for you to have positive thinking, then you have to make sure that you're feeding those positive things. And it is going to be a stretch and an effort because some days are going to be harder than others. But again, whatever you practice becomes your process. It is so very important that you navigate your sleep. A lot of times we're not making the adjustments for the sleep. We talked last month about the impact of not enough sleep. And so it's important for you to really understand that if you're having to get up earlier, if you're having to adjust for a commute, you got to go to bed earlier. There has to be a cutoff time. And even though it may feel really odd because the days are lighter, longer, and so you may be like, "Well, it's still light outside," but you have to make those adjustments because prolonged lack of effective sleep is going to show up in your attention, your concentration, your focus, and then you're going to start to see some negative impacts, including weight gain, and also potential other health complications. It's also really important for you to understand that you got to have some stress relief time. So, whether that's going to be a workout, whether you're going to plan some positive activities, now don't think you only have to do one or the other because it is important for you to get 30 minutes. We have talked about that sitting is the new smoking, and so it is important for you to be able to get that physical activity in. So, you want to make sure that you're attending to that. But also that you're making sure that you have some positive. So if you're this type of person who doesn't take breaks and you just go go go, that you're having some time for positive moments in your workday where you take those breaks. It's important for you to take that break. When you're at work and you're in a stressful environment, go out, get you a walk, leave the building, unplug. I don't care if you just go to your car, but it's important for you to make sure that you are getting some of that positive time in and that you're literally unplugging. And it's important for you to set those healthy work boundaries. So if you don't like people coming to talk to you, like you got to tell people. A lot of times we're annoyed and we think that people are going to get the message by us rolling our eyes or us not paying attention to them. First, there's a couple of different ways because some people just don't want to respect boundaries, but you do communicate them first. And then there's consequences for if those boundaries aren't communicated. So now when you're coming in and you're talking to me, I'm not addressing you because I already said, hey, the best way to reach me is this way. And so you coming in here is not only disruptive to me, but I'm not going to keep encouraging you to do that by talking to you when you come in, right? Because I don't want to feed that behavior. So the boundaries are really important in the work environment. If, friends, you are experiencing difficulty being able to sleep, or you're having increased sleepiness and fatigue, if you are noticing pain, your neck, your back, your shoulders, your arm, particularly radiating pain, heart palpitations, if you are noticing that you have gastrointestinal issues that are getting worse, your headaches are getting worse, if you are noticing that your anxiety spikes the nights before you have to go to work, but then on the weekend is fine. If you're noticing negative thoughts, lack of motivation, difficulty being able to do things, problems with attention, concentration, and focus, being able to get those products done, getting those projects turned in on time. You're having problems at work, like you've gotten the coaching memos. Like people are like, "What's going on with you? We haven't had these problems. This behavior is different. You snapping on your coworkers in the environment." These may be moments where you need to talk to a professional. Here's your plug for therapy. It might be a therapist that you need to address this transition and some of the challenges that are associated with going back into the work for you. Maybe that you need to consult a health professional because there may be some things that are going on that might have been exacerbated by stress. They could have been an issue, but they've gotten worse because you're now more in a stressful environment and you haven't gotten that routine together yet. And so you may need to address those things so we can make sure we get them early and they don't get worse. Or that we're doing some preventative care, we may need to make some adjustments, some accommodations in that work environment to be able to better offset some of those challenges associated with going in the workplace. And we're going to talk about this in upcoming episodes this month, but it also may be time for you to look at whether or not this is going to be the best place for you and the best fit for you because the environment is so different working in person than it was when you're working remotely. And so we're going to talk about getting back into the job market and the stress associated with that. If you've been laid off or if you're in a position where you need to just switch to something else because being back in person just isn't a good fit for you. Okay. So I want to leave you with this. It is very important that as you're making adjustments, you're kind to yourself. There's going to be a period of adjustment. So there's going to take some time for you to figure out your new routine, what that's going to look like, what's going to work best for you. Don't abandon things that you just tried one day. So I know a lot of you are like, oh, it's not working, and you've tried it one day. Please give something an opportunity. Give it a couple of weeks because it takes time for our bodies to reset. I also want you to know that there's probably likely someone else out there going through something very similar to you. So you may be able to find that support resource at work. That's your time, your respite, your break when you're taking that time away and you're unplugging, where you and this person can just talk and keep each other encouraged. We talked about that team and how important that is. All right. So I want you all to take good care of yourselves, but most importantly, I want you to be well.